A Model 33 Teletype truly is an amazing machine, and it's a great piece of equipment to connect to your earliest microcomputers and use as an operator's console. Unfortunately, connecting it to the computer can be somewhat difficult and confusing. And what we're going to show you today, though, is a much easier way to get this teletype connected to a microcomputer. Now, unfortunately, there is no external data connection whatsoever on the teletype, so no matter how you're going to connect it, the first step is removing the cover so you can get to the insides. And obviously, that's what we've done here already. Now, back in the back right corner is where the connection is for data, so we're going to go ahead with the camera back there and take a look at what goes on in connecting this to a computer. This is a rear view of the teletype where we can see the connector bank that's available on the teletype. The link between the computer and the teletype is a standard asynchronous serial link running at 110 baud. The electrical signaling used by the teletype is 20 milliamp current loop, as opposed to the RS-232 signaling you're probably more familiar with. Now, the current loop requires a total of 4 conductors to communicate between the teletype and the computer. 2 of them are used for transmit data out of the teletype to the computer, and then another 2 are used for receive data coming from the computer into the teletype. Now, those 4 wires can be found in 2 places on the teletype. They're available here on this connector, which is called the P2 connector. Those 4 same signals can also be accessed down here hidden behind this fiberboard insulator. This is a 10-position terminal block where you can attach just with screw terminals if you want. Obviously, building this connector is not trivial. You'd have to go order the housing and the pins and put it all together. But even getting to the terminal strip requires typically you remove all 4 of these connectors and then unscrew 2 screws to get to the terminal block hidden behind that cover. And then you've got, of course, hooked to the right 4 screws out of the 10. The teletype documentation is very complete, but it is the most cryptic and confusing documentation set I've ever seen. Nowhere in there does it just clearly come out and say, hey dummy, here's where to connect your computer. It's in there, but it takes a little bit of digging to find it. So as you can see, this is not plug and play by any means. It takes a little bit of work to figure it out. And then to add to the complexity is the fact that this is current loop. A lot of your serial boards that you're going to find in your computers aren't going to support current loop. They're going to be RS-232 only. Or if they did have a current loop configuration, sometimes you want it to be RS-232 and swapping back and forth requires resoldering. And so you just assume stick with an RS-232 interface so that you can exchange multiple devices easily. Now, unfortunately, I don't know that there was ever any sort of internal RS-232 mod made for the teletype. The current loop to RS-232 converter was an external device. Teletype themselves offered it. And I'm going to put up a picture here in just a minute. Third-party current loop converters are still available as well, and we're back in the day. And they all have the same basic principle. It's an external box. Wires run from the teletype to some screw terminals for the current loop interface. And then on the opposite side is a DB25 for the RS-232, or possibly more screw terminals for the RS-232. That is another box sitting on your desk with wires running to each side, and yet another power supply or power cord that then has to hook into a power strip or outlet. So it's kind of cumbersome, and those devices in turn have more configuration options for polarity, who provides the loop current, that kind of thing. So it adds another level of confusion to getting this all hooked up and getting it working. But anyway, let's take a look at that teletype one real quickly here in these pictures. I'll push that up right now. Here we see the teletype branded RS-232 to current loop converter. This end is the RS-232 connection, and here you see the screw terminals for connecting current loop to the teletype. So as you can see, getting a teletype connected to your computer, whether RS-232 or even just straight current loop, it's definitely not plug and play, and it's a little bit of hit or miss before it's up and running. Now I want to show you another way to connect to the teletype that is almost as plug and play as you could possibly get. We're going to start with this new board right here, which obviously has the mating connector for P2. To install it, you simply push it on to the P2 connector, and then connect a modular phone jack cable into the bottom. And that in turn is connected to your RS-232 DB25 The good old modular connectors that were popular back in the 80s. These are still readily available now. Very easy to use. Anyway, that's it. You're done. On this connector are all the current loop signals required to talk to the teletype. Also on this connector is a 48 volt AC power supply that Teletype specifies in the document is for the end user to use. So this circuit converts that 48 volts down to the 5 volts it needs to operate. So you don't need an external power supply. On this chip also is conversion to RS-232. So plug and play, you now have a serial connection RS-232 to DB25 ready to go. It's that simple. All right, and now with our computer and teletype connected using our new plug-and-play RS-232 to teletype interface, we're going to come over here and turn on this teletype and boot up the computer that's connecting to it. It's going to be running CPM. Turn that on, get the computer going. All right, and we're up and running. Now this board is going to be available on my website, dramp.com, DERAMP.com. Unfortunately, as you can see, it's got a lot of surface mount components on it. One of them is extremely tiny, so this board is going to have to be sold fully assembled. I can't sell just the bare boards. But anyway, so go to dramp.com and take a look at the for sale link, and you'll see a link to this board.